I used to hate groundwork. There were times in my training career where I would try and do as little groundwork as possible, and for the most part I got by. That is until I rode a 2-year-old filly that I had never worked with. I ended up getting catapulted, slammed the back of my head on the ground, and ever since then I've put more stock into doing groundwork. So in this video I'm going to do a series of tests with this horse and hopefully give you some tests that you can do with your horse to identify holes in their training on the ground before you sling a leg over to ride. So this is a 7-year-old Mustang. Her name is Liberty. She's had 4 to 5 months of training. I don't know who trained her. I know she has been ridden and she seems very friendly just to be around, but I don't like getting on a horse I don't know without testing some things out first. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I did quite a few exercises in this session, and so for the sake of time I cut it down to the exercises that she either struggled with the most or that I was the most surprised that she did well with. So the ones you see are in no particular importance, and they are by no means the most telling when it comes to if the horse is safe or not. They were just more beneficial for her specifically. I'm going to see if she knows head down. Now her head's already down, so that doesn't really. So she does brace into that. So that's the first major hole, is she braced into that pretty good. Now, if they braced steady pressure, that is not safe, because when you're on them, that's steady pressure. The saddle on them, steady pressure. When you have a hold of a rein, that's steady pressure. When you're asking them to bridle up, that's steady pressure. So there's a whole lot of steady pressure that goes into being on them. And so I want to be able to make sure all the steady pressure exercises I do on the ground are really good. So I'm going to try that again. And she is bracing into it, which it's natural for any horse to brace in to pressure in the beginning. So if they don't, that means they've been trained not to. Then as soon as she lowers her head, the pressure will go away and I'll let go of the rope. She gave slightly, so I'm going to release on that, and then I'm going to ask her again. Now she's lighter. She didn't really push into it as much. There she gave good. So I'll just do this a couple more times since I'm just testing things out today. But I'll keep this in the back of my head that she needs to work on this. Like right now, she's still bracing against it. So this is definitely something that I'm going to have to work on. And if she just tucks her nose, that's not giving to the downward pressure. And so I'm not going to release there. She slightly gave down, so I'll release. She just blew out. So she is slightly bothered by it, which is obvious when she pushes into it. There she gave. There she gave twice. She's yawning, so she is getting more okay with that. So now I'm going to ask her to do the 3-circle game, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a small circle around me, and it's 3 circles because her front feet are on a circle, or her hind feet are on a slightly wider circle because it's a partial disengagement of her hindquarters, and then my feet are going to be on a circle. And so, see, when I'm tapping her here, she's wanting to speed up. I don't want her to do that, so I'm going to keep tapping her until she realizes she doesn't have to speed up. If I were to tap her and then take away the pressure, then she'd just think tapping her means speed up. So she started to slow down there, so I'm going to release for a second. But if I keep tapping her until she slows down, then she knows that tapping goes away when she's slow. So this is the same exercise I'll do when I'm riding her, which is relaxed rein, which is just getting her head and neck and ribs to bend while getting her hindquarters to disengage partially. So right here, she doesn't want to go forward. So see, now she's less reactive when I'm tapping her, which is good. So every time I tap on her, I just want her to widen out with her hindquarters and soften with her ribs. And then if she gets too straight or counterbent, then I'll put a little feel on the halter until she bends her head towards me. So this is already better. She could have more bend, but that's not too bad. So ideally, when I'm riding, if things get hectic or she gets anxious, I can just bend her down into that exercise. And that'll relax her. And then on the ground, it's the same thing. It'll be a relaxing exercise. Now, since she doesn't know that really well, or she hasn't been doing it, she got a little anxious about it, but the more I do it, the more relaxing that'll be to her. So now, I'm going to circle her on a bigger circle. And I'm going to do walk, trot, lope, and ideally I'd have a longer lead rope, but that's currently with a different horse that is not here, so I'm using this one. So I just want her to be able to be out there and not get anxious and show that she has some emotional fitness. Now when she has a good walk, I'll point, lift the stick, wave it, cluck to trot, and then she trots. So I don't have to put any pressure on her. I don't have to put any physical pressure on it. All that is technically pressure to them, because it's your energy and intention. Then there she wants to stop, and I want her to maintain gait, so I'm just going to tap her right back into it. You want them to have responsibility on the circle and when you're riding, and maintain whatever gait that you put them at. And whatever speed in that gait that you put them at. So I'm going to see how she switches directions. I'm going to back up and let her come in, and then use my stick to get her to go the other way. So that could have been smoother. So I like how responsive she is out there to my cue to go forward. Like, I don't really have to spank her at all. She is kind of swishing her tail and lifting her head when I ask her to trot. That could be because she doesn't want to, or she's a little anxious about it. To me, it seems like it's more of she just doesn't really want to trot. And she's shaking her head there. It's because she doesn't want, she'd rather just stand still, which any horse would rather do nothing. So she sped up at the trot, but she did not lope. So I'm going to kind of ease her back down a little bit, get her relaxed, but she has to keep going forward. See, she's definitely getting more emotional about it when I'm asking her to lope. So she loped, she's cross-firing there. Because she's not relaxed at all. She's very frantic, and she's speedy and not in control of her body right now. So I'm actually going to switch directions, since she did step into the lope there. And if you notice, when I'm asking her to lope, I'm not asking her, and then if she doesn't go, I'm not just sitting there spanking away at her. I ask her, then reset, and then ask again, reset, and if she goes, then no pressure. But if you just sit there and keep asking and asking and asking and spanking, it just gets too wild, and they get too anxious, and it just causes problems, and you just don't really want to do that. There we go. So she went into the correct lead. It is harder since I have this smaller lead rope, because it's a smaller circle she has to be on. But she should still be able to do this. See, that was way better. She went into that a lot smoother. If I had a longer rope, this would be a lot easier for her, but if you saw in that second one, she just kind of stepped into it way nicer instead of being all frantic and pulling away at the same time and slipping, and that's what I want. And so the more I do this, the more emotionally fit she'll get. The same lope you have on the ground is going to be the same one you have while you're riding. So if she's all frantic just on the ground on a circle, most likely she's also going to be when I go to ride her. So again, I'm going to get her going, and then I'm going to put a feel on this. And I just want her to keep going and wear it, not react. That's good, then I'll relax. And if you can see, I have the Honda on the bottom of the loop so that when I do release, it falls and actually releases pressure instead of, or if you have it the other way, it can kind of stay tight on them. That's good. So I do want her to keep going. So this is more around her flank. So I just want to make sure I'm not in her kick zone, so I'm going to feed a little bit out. It's not quite around her flank, but it's getting back there to where that back cinch will be. So she hasn't even really reacted. She's kind of speeding up a little bit, but not really anything to be concerned about, which is good. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and move it back. So again, you probably don't have to do this, but I just like to because I think it's most thorough. To have it back there on her flank. So I'm going to start light. I'm not just going to go and yank it. So she wants to slow down. I don't want her to do that. So then when she keeps going, then I'll release it. So she did react there a little bit when I pulled it a little tighter, but then she recovered. I'm probably only going to do this at a trot today. If I was in a round pen, I'd be a little more likely to do it at a lope, but considering how bad she loped earlier, that would just be pretty hectic, so I'm not really going to mess with it at a lope. But they've definitely done this with her, which is good, because a lot of horses will go nuts when you do that, or at least buck, or kick out at it or something, but she didn't even really care at all. So that was very good. I'm going to kind of drift with her here. So this is a tighter angle, so it's a little harder. And when she turns, you want to make sure your hand is up so it doesn't get caught on the cantle and wrap around, and then you have a kind of a problem. I'll do that again because it's a little choppy. But this is like very similar to what she's going to feel when I'm riding her and I'm going to bend her around or steer. So when you're first doing this, you can push their head over a little bit so it's more of a lateral thing, where there it started off very like straight backwards and she had to figure it out. Like, see, she's still having to figure it out. So I'm just going to drift with her. And then there she goes. She got it. I just want to go in a circle and be okay with me flapping this up and down. And if she speeds up a little bit, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because squeezing her or bumping her is going to mean speed up when I'm on her. So I just want her to be relaxed, and she does not. This isn't bothering her really at all. You can really get it up there. See that? She's thinking speed up, but she's still doing it controlled, so I'm not bothered by that. I'll just kind of bump on the halter, get her to come back to me a little bit. There, that's good. And then I'll stop. That's pretty good. Now, if I was doing this training-wise, I'd do it on the other side, but we don't have a lot of time, and I am going to guess that she'd be okay with it. Practice stepping up without getting all the way on her. I'm going to hop a little bit and then lean up over her. She feels my weight, and then off. Do it again. Now, if I knew she had never been rode, I wouldn't have done it that quick, but I know that she's been rode, and so I'm a little more okay with just getting right to it. I'm gonna do it on the other side. I like all my horses to be able to be mounted from both sides. Not because you have to do that, but it's just like there's more broke. Obviously, she's done this before on both sides. Then finally, I will sit on her. My saddle is loose again, but. And then her feet are kind of braced for weight, so that's good. Don't really have to do anything there. But once I get up here, I'm not going to be a statue. I'm going to rub her, let her know I'm here, kind of move around. And then in practice getting off, because you don't want to ride them around and ride them around and then they get scared when you go to get off. I've had that happen this summer on a horse that she kind of had a bad habit of running off every time you got off of her because of some experiences she had previously. But this horse is good. I'll even give a little sneak peek of a ride. Ask her to walk off a little bit after I bend her a little bit. Actually, just kidding. You're not going to see me walk her off. You're going to have to wait until the next video. But you do get to see she does know lateral bending. So that's good. So, those are some tests that I would run if I was getting on a new horse or a horse that has been sitting, just to kind of find any holes that they have so that you're not getting on a horse that has a bunch of holes and is going to blow up on you. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully that was a little entertaining. And I will see you on the next one.